Let's do it. One take.
One take on the couch again. Dantron 69K and my co-pilot Wolfman.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, so today is going to be a little bit of a different one. We decided we've been talking back and forth, and actually we've been running down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and we said, you know what? Since we did our first preserving the past into the future episode, we've been kind of thinking about this kind of stuff and going through like what is something else. So this is going to be a supplemental, and it's going to be about aging hardware. And what am I speaking about specifically today that Wolfman and I are going to talk about is aging drives. When I'm talking about that, I mean aging disk drives. DVD, CD, Blu-ray, all of those moving component drives that wear out over time, disk-based media with how it ends up scratching the discs, or you got disk rot that grows up. So we're going to just take a little little bit of time and just discuss some of the things that we've been talking about, some of the things that we found, some of the things that we're enjoying, some of the I guess how would you say, some of the saving grace options that are in there rather than just doom and gloom like your consoles are going to stop working at some point. So Wolfman, you got anything to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, man, you summed everything up great. But, in that too, there's that dual meaning behind all of this when we talked about this. And then that's the idea of preservation and preserving our systems and being able to enjoy them as we get older and being able to pass it down to our kids and their grandkids, because that stuff, the original stuff, is not going to be available, another 10, 15, 20 years down the pike. So,
I mean, it
it's
might,
about saving it.
yeah, it might be available. Some of the hardware is going to be still around, but over time that stuff just disappears. Like they don't make newer, disk drives necessarily for Sony PlayStation. They don't
Hmm.
make disk drives necessarily for OG Xbox. So I mean, yeah, they're out there right now, and you can work on them until doomsday. But what happens when they start to disappear? And what if some people like me? I find myself as someone who's pretty capable about working on some of these things, and I have that experience and being able to tweak and stuff. But what about the people that don't? What about the people that are not comfortable getting into their consoles, right? Getting into their consoles and breaking things open and trying to, modify things or clean or fix and follow tutorials and stuff. It's just there's varying degrees of how people enjoy their consoles and what type of I guess what kind of capacity they have to do it. And not one way or another is bad or wrong. It's just that's the reality of it. That's just the way that it goes. So
Yep.
so what I'm going to say is, all right, so this, yes, I have a different skin on it, so I'll touch on it for just a second, but this is my actual OG non-modded Dreamcast, meaning the whole guts outside of just the case is like my OG original. I still have the box. I launched Dreamcast that I got. Still has the oddball power cord that comes in the back and all that. So, however, this is my first one that I'm going to touch on really quick. I decided because I'm not going to mod anything if I don't have one has to stay like pristine. So what I mean, I know that one has a different case on it. That was done years and years ago. But I try to keep one not modified as much as possible, and it's my original. So I have an original. This is my original Dreamcast, not modified outside of the case. And then I have, for another example, I don't have it with me, but my black GameCube that you've seen me work on when I changed my power board before. That one is unmolested as well. That one's still DVD drive. Everything is all exactly the same except for the brand new board, but it's a board that matches the GameCube. But so this is my modded Dreamcast though, and so when you look at it, see it has no drive in there anymore. It's off of SD card. This is a GC loader. That actually not GC loader. This is GDEMU in this one. The GDEMU, and I did take a moment. You can't even really see it either. It's kind of hard to see. Down and inside, you see a little white square in there. You can kind of see through the case. That's called the Dream PSU. That's the power supply. Whereas this one, this is cool. That actually, I didn't even think about this. This one is clear, but you can actually see it. It has the original big power board in there. That's the original
Hmm.
power board that you're going to see inside a Dreamcast when you crack this bad boy open. So with that, you can actually look at it, and even the back piece is a different type of plugin.
Hmm.
So that basically what it did is it took all those capacitors and the big, I guess, power components and put it into a brick. Like you see a lot of the new, some consoles, they have that power brick. That's where a lot of that stuff, except for it was inside here. So we took it out so it doesn't create heat, and then we have another plug-in. And so now I have a ton of Dreamcast games, but I have them at the tips of my fingers on this. And the best part is it works with the legit peripherals, which Dreamcast has freaking awesome peripherals, and it works just like a normal Dreamcast would. Wolfman, you have a Dreamcast. After
Nah.
having a conversation with me, and
Oh my God.
you decided to listen to me and maybe partake in some modded Dreamcast action. What do you think?
Oh man, some people, they find their plug, they go down to the inner city, they know a plug and they get their crack cocaine. My plug happens to be sitting right there virtually. That's Dantron. And, we talk online, we talk offline, and we're talking about games and stuff. And, he had mentioned that he had done this and it sounded really cool. And he showed it to me and I saw it working and it's really cool. But I think things really kind of hit me when we did the retro law episode on preservation and where gaming is going, emulation, um, disc-based consoles. They're not made like the old school Nintendos and Super Nintendos and N64s that work on cartridges, where we said in that episode you could throw it out a, 6-story building, and as long as it lands in a bush or something and not on concrete, you could probably pick it up, plug it in, put your cartridge in, and it's going to work. These console-based disk drive systems, there's, like you said in the beginning, there's moving parts, there's optical, lasers and stuff that are going to wear over time. And, you talked about disk rot, which, right before the episode, I went into my gaming closet and I looked at a couple of my Saturn games, and I swear I'm starting to see like little dots or spots, which looks like, the beginning of what is going to be disc rot. And these are games that I love and enjoy. And, if the patterns continue at this rate, I'm not going to be able to put that in and enjoy it. And it might be something to consider and think about, trying to future proof these consoles, to be able to play these games. I mean, I'll always collect and like the physical media, but the reality is at some point in time, I'm not going to be able to play these original games at some point. And that's just reality that people are going to have to understand. I mean, if you have a Sega Saturn, 20 years from now, you're probably not going to be able to play these games. I mean, like you said, you might be able to find a part, or maybe you're handy and you can change out the laser and stuff. But for somebody like myself that's a Luddite, I'm not going to be able to do it. And, I need an alternative. And you holding up that Dreamcast, the GDEMU modded Dreamcast, is what a great alternative. I mean, you didn't say this to the audience, but when Dantron was holding that up, he has every single United States Dreamcast game that ever came out. He's got all of the key European and Japanese English translated games on there. He's got homebrew games, and he probably has other ROMs on there. And it's
A
all
Thomas Wave.
right. Thomas Wave. Thank you. And the key is that it plays on the peripherals. You could use the VMUs. You could use your fishing rod, your keyboard, your mouse, your Dreamcast arcade stick, your twin sticks, all the stuff that you were talking about. That's the amazing thing. So it feels like you're playing on the authentic Dreamcast without it running and hitting that laser on your disc and having all those games. I think that's amazing. And yes, I did. You have corrupted me, and I have spent, I don't even want to talk about it on air here, but let's just say well over $1,300, well over, and probably more to come. And guess what? I love it. I
So
love it.
you know what? I love that you, because you're actually where I was. So I am a purist. Like, if you've seen these law episodes before, I like OG hardware. I like OG peripherals. I don't really like any of the aftermarket stuff. I'm just not that way. However, and I want to say this is probably, I don't know, I would say about 8 months ago. 8 months ago, it just hit me, and I was like, because I love the Dreamcast, and actually, I think it was we were talking about it. It might have even been the Dreamcast episode, and I
It
was
might have
and I,
been.
and I was just talking about, and when I remember, and I looked, and I go, shoot, I only have one Dreamcast. I have lots and lots of consoles, but I said I only have one Dreamcast. I want to buy another one. And I was like, I'm gonna get one because I want to make sure that I have a couple of them because if one goes bad, one has an issue, I want to make sure that I'm. And I was like, then I started thinking, I was like, wait a minute, but I'm still going to run into the same issues with moving components and stuff. Then I started running down the rabbit hole. I am kind of a nerd when it comes to learning things, and so I started going, what options are out there? And then I find out this thing called GDEMU, and I was like, what is that? And then I started running down that, and I was like, you know what? This is something that I could do because there's no soldering in it. Now, I am going to, on my third Xbox, I am going to start working on fine soldering. I'm going to get my solder station. I am going to actually hard mod that one. But these mods that I'm talking about, these systems, they are very straightforward in modding. You could do it yourself. There's no soldering required. They are replace components and know what you're doing. Yeah, there is some software stuff that you got to do. You got to understand, but it's not too crazy. And once I got that, I'm very capable when it comes to doing things with my hands, and I'm not necessarily a genius, but I'm pretty smart when it comes to dealing with file systems and how that stuff will work. And I was like, I feel comfortable in doing this. I've never done it before, but those of you that watched my Xbox video that I put out, I don't know, last night or earlier today, where I swapped out, I've never installed one of those boards on the back of a hard drive to adapt from the normal newer hard drives to a 80 pin. And so, I never even seen it done. But my brain works that way. I could, all right. So this is how it goes together. This makes sense to me. So I didn't fear it. And Dreamcast is where I started. I started with the Dreamcast because I freaking love it, and then I started playing it, and it's like playing on OG hardware, just without the disc. That's the best part, like what Wolf talked about. So as I'm playing it, I'm like, dude, I started getting the itch because I'm playing it, and so I have a few of my consoles out, not very many of them. I had a few of them out so that the family could play them, and I saw right next to it was the GameCube, and I was like, I said, what if? And so then I ran down that rabbit hole too, and ended up going into the GC Loader realm. Yeah, there's Pico Boot and all that, but I fixated on PC Loader because it was very straightforward and easy, and I didn't do a whole lot of research. I know it filled my niche, what I needed, so I did that swap out, and I freaking love that one as well. This is my GameCube that with the GC Loader. I don't have my black GameCube out, but as you can see, I got a clear filament cover on it, so when the light lights up, it actually lights up inside, so it looks pretty cool.
Sweet.
And yeah, so this one's a lot of fun as far as GameCube games, because GameCube is another fantastic system that the freaking games are getting ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong, Wolfman knows I have a lot of GameCube games. But again, just like anything else, they're gonna have problems at some point, and the disk drive's gonna do something. Like I already had that issue with my power board going out. So, I mean, yeah. So what are you thinking, Wolf? Now I see the wheels turning in your head.
Yeah, it is turning, and I don't ordinarily do something like this, but I've had such a good experience with this gentleman and his business, and even Dantron
I
have
did too.
experienced um his business as well. So I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna plug him. And if you're interested in what Dan held up, you should check out this guy. His name's Russell C. He is an Etsy store. His store is called Retro Games, RetroGamze. He's a standout guy. He answers all your questions. We think his prices are fair. The quality of his work is amazing. I can't even believe how happy I am with my Dreamcast. And he is offering the stuff that you're talking about, like the GameCube console that's modified and all that stuff. He offers it. He's got a Dreamcast. He's got other systems that he mods, and his work is great. But I think we could both agree this is a hobby that is
Yes.
not for the po.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to be shelling out some bucks. You are paying for a lot of hard work from these people that are going in and changing out shells. Like Dan was just telling me, like the shell for what I was showing him is like $100 just for the shell. And you're not even getting into all of the internals, and there's LED lights in there, and you could totally get all these options. Like I was looking at the GameCube, and there's options for Bluetooth to be added in, and just
Mhm.
like you could just start going crazy. And I'm not even kidding when I say this. The price for a GameCube with some of these options are anywhere between $400 and $700.
However, however, I want to say this to everybody. I decided I felt like I wanted to play. This is just an example. Resident Evil Code Veronica X on GameCube. Are you going to be able to play that at $200 to $250 for the game?
That's unbelievable how
One
much that's
game.
up.
You
I
start
can't
talking about,
believe
I
it.
want to try that Cubivore game. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
That that
right.
that you saved your entire cost of that game and then some by buying a
It's
modified
true.
GameCube, and it's going to last longer. That's the only thing I'm getting. We love people. We want you to enjoy your games as long as possible, and this is one of those ways
Mhm.
that look. I'm not condoning, tearing apart consoles and all that kind of stuff, but this is about preserving. And again, I have one that's pristine that I keep, and then I have another one that I decided to play with. Same thing with my Xbox. So there's all kinds of now. Look, check this out. So my Sega Saturn still works, but I don't have another one. So guess what? It's still original. I'm not going to mess with this one. I'm going to get another one and I'm going to mess with it. This one's a little bit more involved because it's going to involve some soldering and things. So I don't necessarily want to jump into that at the moment. But
Mhm.
just as an example, it's the disk drives that are and the disk-based media that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about going out there and the Super Nintendo outside of changing a skin on it because you've seen me do that, or
Yeah.
there's nothing else really to mod unless you want to do like HD mods and having a HDMI out and
Mhm.
RGB, and so it ups the resolution and all that kind of stuff. You can do all that stuff if you want, but you don't have to. These ones, the disc based ones, are the ones that are going to fail first. I mean, like a PlayStation or any of those. I know there's X Station out there. That's something I'm looking into as well. So I mean, but we just wanted to take a moment to just have some fun conversation about this. It's almost like a sub hobby if you think about it, because
Mhm.
we got the hobby of collecting games. Now we have this sub hobby of being able to enjoy the games on the hardware that they're intended, but just in a little
Mhm.
bit different manner. So, Wolf, I know you got other stuff going on. Will you talk about another one of your systems that you got modded and how you
Yeah.
like that too?
Okay, definitely. And my God, you get the full credit for this. This is what started me down the rabbit hole was I can't even believe it. So the Dreamcast one I just had gotten, but what started all of this was the episode that we did on the OG Xbox. And and just my mind was blown because I never had a Microsoft and system, and the games that I never played because I was like the Sony fanboy and I always had Sony products. I couldn't believe it, and I started to collect the physical media for the Xbox, but some of the games are like super expensive. I'm like, all right, I can't do this. And I went down that rabbit hole. I talked to Dan and I got a modded OG Xbox. And it's awesome. It's hooked up in our living room. I have two controllers. Pop on the TV. You got the full library at your disposal. And that's going to come in handy in the future when we start playing like Steel Battalion with friends and we start doing all this online stuff and you hook me up to that I forget what it's called. What is it, Xperia or something?
No, the XR or the what is it? Shoot, you just made me lose it.
I
Um,
know. I
I
botched
don't
it.
know. Whatever. It's fine. No, it's
Yeah,
X Link. Yeah, yeah.
something like that.
X Link. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
But it's amazing. It's amazing. And what was so cool is that I had to take off the shell. I had to, which I was like, almost a panic attack having to do that. And then I had to like put in a thing, but it was really cool to see like all the insides, and you could see where the HDD drive was. And
Hmm.
just, you talked about how important it was to fold that white ribbon. I remember panicking. I didn't want to touch that ribbon. I was very delicate to put everything back, but it's it's unbelievable. It's so cool to be able to just go down a list or go on the internet, underlooked, underappreciated games, hidden gems. You got them, and you can try them out, and you can play them as much as you want, and it'll save it to the to your drive. And I don't know, it just kind of opened up. It's like it's like being on an ayahuasca, 1 week cleansing, and it's just like your third eye opens, and you're in this other realm. And I think you said it perfectly. I'll always be a collector and a gamer, always at heart. I mean, I'm in my 40s, and I just love that stuff. But I'm also not an idiot either, and I know this stuff's not going to last forever. And how am I going to be able to pass this down and have my kids enjoy it and stuff like that? And it's a fun hobby to get into. I'm enjoying it, but it is definitely you know, yes, it's gonna cost some coin. And I'm already looking at the GameCube, and I'm like, oh my God,
Just space it out, you
like
guys. Just
500
space
bucks.
it out. Just
Yeah, right,
do
exactly.
one. Worry about it. So what I'm looking at is, I guess for me, it's you got a console now with the convenience of Steam on PC is what it is.
Yeah.
It's that convenience that you're not having to grab discs. You're not having to store all the discs, because most of my game discs are in like totes and stuff. I don't want to dig through all that stuff, but
Yeah.
it's all right there. So
Convenient.
then it's so like when my wife wants to play something, she wanted to play she played some Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Guess what? We just went click, turned it on. Where is it at? Scroll down to it. Boop, loaded. And by the way, the game saves right on the GameCube card. So all the normal stuff works. You can now there are ways that you can save it to your SD cards and all that kind of stuff, and you can do that in the software. But I like everything staying as true to the real feel as I can, except for the fact that stuff loads faster, which is great because it's just loading off
Oh
the
yeah.
SD card. And you're not having to change discs, but everything else is the same. And that's what I love. I love being able to use the OG, controllers and all the weird peripherals, and all that stuff works. Like, Dreamcast in particular, still putting in the VMU and it still pulls up like the Crazy Taxi on there, or the Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. It's so freaking cool, and I hope that some of you will at least open your eyes and your mind to the idea of possibly looking into one of these. Especially if you're a retro collector already, like, keep your nice pristine stuff that you have, the stuff that you had from as a kid, or you got all boxed and everything. Keep that where it is. Get something else that's you don't mind kind of beating on, right? It doesn't have that sentimental value, but get it so that it's you can play it and you don't feel bad about it. It's not your one thing that it's gold plated. You got to be careful with it. Now you got this one that's been fixed and it's convenient, and
Yeah.
you feel like you can play it again. See, I still get scared because I still have a lot of regular Super Nintendo games, right? I If I have a game on Super Nintendo, I don't necessarily want to use it off of one of those modded, cartridges. So but I still get nervous when I'm pulling my Chrono Trigger out and putting it in the system. I mean, what is going to really happen there? But still, I'm pulling out this game that's almost impossible to get now without selling a kidney, and I'm plugging it into the
Right.
right. So
Yeah.
now the same thing with GameCube. Like, Wolfman has different games. What is it? What's that one that was Block? It had some anime characters on it. It wasn't Cubivore. It
Oh,
was
Gotcha Force.
Gotcha Force. He's not going to pull out Gotcha Force and throw it into his GameCube and try and play.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. That's not going to happen. Like, it's just not. He has a Steel Battalion, and he's going to have a sealed copy of the game. Nobody's going to pull out the sealed copy and open it up to, you know what I'm saying? Even though you got it, just be smart about it, right? So
Right.
that's the biggest thing for me, is just explaining to you guys that it's a really fun way to go if you have the opportunity to do it. And I'm having a great time hanging out with Wolf and doing it. You see me, it's like therapy for me as I'm, working on these things. And just because I like to work on a lot of these things, it doesn't mean you have to. You can be more like Wolf, that just does your research to say, yep, this is the one I want. I saved up. This is my Christmas gift, or this is my
Yep.
birthday gift. And then reliving your childhood with this gift, right? I mean, like Wolfman was talking about the GameCube. GameCube, there's a lot of people I know that are going to be right around my age or a little bit younger that are really, GameCube is in their wheelhouse. And so now it's like, it's less, it's $200 less than the cost of a PS5, and you got the entire freaking library on there. All the games you could ever want to play, the nostalgia that's going to hit.
Yeah.
Look, I get fired up sometimes and you'll notice I get fired up about stuff when it touches me in a manner that it lets me know that people will enjoy this. Other people can find joy, and they might not know about it. And that's why we're sharing this with you, because it is available. It is a fun thing. Yes, we're retro law, but this is retro law, but we need to pay attention to that preservation aspect as well. So what else do you got, Wolf?
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, and using the GameCube as the example, it's just one of those consoles right now that is just super expensive to collect for. You brought up the example of Code Veronica. You told me how much that was. My smoke was coming out of both ears. I had no idea how much that shot up in value. That is nowhere near what I paid for that when I found that. You know, at a flea market years ago or whatever, I might have paid, I don't know, 35 bucks or 30 bucks. And now you're telling me it's like 175 or somewhere
Mm-hmm.
in that neighborhood. It's just getting ridiculous. It's getting absurd to pay these prices unless you find it really cheap at an estate sale or a Goodwill store or something like that. And you have the whole library. And not just United States, you could play GameCube games that never came out stateside. You could play European games. You could play Japanese games, homebrew. I mean, it just kind of opens up a new world, and I think it's fantastic. And I love what you said, that I don't have to go downstairs, go into my game closet, try to find the games, being scared to death that I'm handling it with care because, you might have like $300 in your hand, putting it in the disk drive, hoping you don't scratch it. Like, just all of that stuff. It's just so much more convenient. And, we didn't even talk about this, Dan, how much better the picture and sound looks on this. Like, when I got my modded Dreamcast, I got a converter on Amazon for 40 bucks that instead of using the component cables, it uses an HDMI. I can't tell you how amazing the picture looks on these Dreamcast games. It is clear. I swear the sound is even better. I don't know if it's just maybe the volume is just louder on these games, but just everything looks and sounds better. It's like breathing life back into the Sega Dreamcast, which was always an amazing system, but now it's just like, whoa, it just makes it that much cooler.
Yeah, I have to parrot everything that you're talking about, and it's just, if we're gonna go back to it, we are purists to a certain extent, right? We like playing and collecting our retro stuff, but this, for some, is going to be a better option, especially in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Going down the path, and that also I'm going to touch on with emulation. Look, I don't want people starting to get too mad at emulation and all that kind of stuff, but emulation is available for a reason. It's for preservation more than anything else. It's not for piracy. That's just going to tell you. That's its purpose. You can twist it and say that it's piracy, and you're going to try and do that. This stuff has been like decommissioned for 25, 30 freaking years half the time.
Yeah, right.
They're just forgotten IPs off to the side, and so to preserve it, again, I'm not necessarily spring chicken. Some of these games, to try and play it or find it, it's cost prohibitive, impossible. So
Yeah.
that's always an option out there, is emulation. Enjoy your games. I don't care how you play them. I really don't. I don't care how you play your games,
Yep.
but just play them. Have fun. Gaming is an escape for a lot of people, and again, it's that nostalgia hit. So that's my soapbox thing when it comes to that. But emulation is a huge, huge piece of this preservation puzzle, and this is just kind of an in between for preserving hard or older console hardware. Emulation, this is a good intermediary between where you're still getting the mesh between both of them. The good of this and the good of this.
I got a surprise. I told you I would have a surprise. And I know
Oh,
the episode is console preservation, but the stuff that we're talking about just makes sense, moving parts. Um, Hard to
I don't
track
want to see
down.
your moving part, Wolf. I don't want to see it.
No, you don't. No. So I'm gonna just show this, and I think you'll know where I'm going with. This is the
Oh.
PS Vita,
Hmm.
and let me tell you, you think like the Dreamcast and the GameCube, the games are expensive. You should see some of the PS Vita games trying to get super, super expensive. Guess what? Same thing. This is modded. This is modded. So I can play regular Vita games, but on here, I have every single Vita game they ever made. Okay. United, North American, European, Japanese, all on here, as well as other ROMs. I know it's a little different than what we're talking about, but it kind of plays into that, cost prohibitive. This might be a better option. You might love PS Vita. You want to collect for it. Well, why not get one of these?
Hmm.
In your hand, you could play, maybe the 10 or 12 physical Vita games that you have. But if you want to try any of the others, you have the whole library right in your hand. And I think it's a great option. And in this over here, same thing goes with another system that's near and dear to my heart, the PSP.
Hmm.
Mod it.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. All the PSP games, that you want to play, and just it's kind of the same idea, just in a smaller form factor, and it's another option. It's another way to go. Um, I know there's a lot of people like what's his name? Angry Video Game Nerd, and
Yeah.
um I forget the game, what are they called? The game hunters, game seekers. Um Whatever. It's like two guys and they go to flea markets and stuff and they try to buy games. They've made like the hobby very popular again, because we talked about this. There was a time nobody was buying any of this stuff. You can go to a flea market. That's when I got Chrono Trigger for a couple bucks. It was in a bin. Some old guy had it. You didn't know what he had.
That was
And
between 14 to probably 14 to 18 or 19 years ago. That window is where it hit.
Yep. And it was amazing, right? You could walk into Funko Land and you could buy Nintendo games for a buck,
Hmm.
like good titles, and just it didn't blow up like it did. And you have all these YouTubers and stuff that have made and breathed life back into this hobby. And people like what's his name? Metal
Oh
Jesus.
yeah,
He'll mention a
he's a
game.
neighbor. He's just right up north of me.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? He'll mention or talk about an underappreciated game. And the next week I'll look at the value. It's gone up $25
Yep.
because he put it on his video. So it's becoming ridiculous. The hobby is not what it used to be. It used to be fun. Now everybody's got a phone. You should see people at flea markets now. They pull out their phone. They're looking up the prices. The sellers, before they sell, they go, wait a second. I'm going to hop on eBay. I want to see what it's going for, or price charting. That
Yep.
stuff never happened before.
No.
So it's kind of taken the fun out of the hobby. I got to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
because you're not gonna find those deals anymore. You're not gonna like
No.
find that I really want to play this game because it's different for me because I don't buy to sell. I buy to preserve. I've said
Yep.
that before, and I straight up will tell y'all I don't buy with the intent that I'm gonna hold this for a little while and then the value is gonna go up like gold and then I'm gonna sell it and make a profit. That's not how I'm programmed. That's not how I work.
Yep.
So, but if I back in the day when we had this place called the BNI that's close to where I live, and there used to be swap meets and more flea markets. There's hardly any flea markets around. They call them thrift stores around here, but
Hmm.
anyways, there's hardly any of that stuff around where I live, and so. But I remember going to some of them back in the day and being like, "Oh yeah, this game looks like it would be fun. And how much is it? $10? Being a little kid, all right, I can pay $10 for that. Let's do that. I mowed some lawns, paid $10 for it. You're not gonna, but and then you find out like, oh, that game is actually worth a lot more money, and it's like, oh, okay, well, cool. I just wanted to play the game. That stuff doesn't happen anymore. Nope. Everybody pays attention to what market value is. It's kind of like
Yeah.
speculators, like, oh, I think the price of this game is going to go up
Yeah.
because it's an Atlas game,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And
Right.
so, oh
Yeah.
yeah, this game sucks, but I'm going to call it Atlas, and it's Atlas, so I'm going to charge a lot more for it. Yeah, you're not going to find those deals very often anymore. Like walking around and finding a Super Nintendo for $10 at a yard sale, very rare.
Yeah.
So,
You would have to be like, it'd have to be the find of the century. You'd have to find like an older couple that they're not plugged in. They just want to get rid of stuff. And it happens. It's rare. But like you said, Dan, 95% of the people, they know what they have. They've looked the stuff up online. It's hard to get a deal. It's hard to haggle. I, I got a lion's share of my collection doing that between that time period that you talked about
yep.
and even before.
Hmm.
And it's just those days are over, you know? And even the games that I show you, like on our little like site that we have for our friends, they're they're not good games, you know. They're what did I get today? I got like Civilization for PS3 for $2 and I got something else. I mean, they're not good games. I got Tiger Woods '06 on PSP
that
for
was
$2. I mean,
that was pre-byte incident. Got it.
yeah, exactly. So you're just not finding those. You're not going to find Code Veronica on GameCube at a flea market. And if you do, then you got a lottery ticket in your hand.
Dude, there
So,
was a time when like Code Veronica, when the Dreamcast kind of went down. I want to say you could buy Code Veronica for Dreamcast for like complete in box for like 15, $20. Now it's like 100.
yeah,
So it's again, they're talking about a remake, which I'm super happy and excited
yes,
for
they are.
because I'm gonna hang on, pause this talk for a minute, and I'm gonna talk Resident Evil Code Veronica again with you guys. Again, I've said it enough, but I'm gonna keep saying it until you guys freaking play that game. Play Code Veronica. Play Resident Evil. So here's the thing too. So quickly, Resident Evil Code Veronica, PlayStation 2 version, I believe, is the best version because it's Code Veronica X. It has some extra stuff that's
Yeah.
put into there. But I still prefer the Dreamcast version better because it looks better. It was made for the Dreamcast. It looks and
True.
plays better on Dreamcast. It just does. The GameCube one's the one that's hot garbage, but I got to get it at some point to complete my set. But I mean, it's what it is. I mean, it's just all right. Sorry, pause. Go back. We're back to preservation. Like most of you guys might not ever be able to play those games, right? So get yourself one of these and play them
Mm,
with us. Come with
yeah.
us,
Look how sexy they are. They're like glowing. It's like the Comstock load right there. It's
dude.
just,
Like, hang on. Like, you could like my Xbox is there too. It's just chilling.
oh, I didn't see the
Yeah,
Xbox.
the
Oh, there
modded
it is.
Xbox is just
Yeah.
chilling there too.
Yeah.
They're all just hanging out.
That's awesome. I mean, it's so I and we didn't even talk. I mean, we talked about the games and stuff, and we talked very briefly about how great the picture is, and just, some of these systems are a pain in the butt to hook up to some of these modern TVs. So you even have that kind of like Sega Saturn's going to be a pain. Whenever you get around to modding, that's going to be a pain to hook that up to a modern 2022, 23, 24 TV. But
Turbo
having the
graphics.
option,
Turbo
oh
graphics. Yeah,
God,
yeah, that doesn't
yeah.
hook up easy. You got to get an adapter and go on the big backside, and then you can't close it because I like how sexy it looks with the back plate. You can't do that anymore because the
Yeah,
piece sticks out of the back. Anyways, that's just sorry. Back off my soapbox. But
yeah.
yeah,
No, it's awesome. I thank you so much for um, you know, just us talking about it, but you opening my eyes to it and like all these different options. And it's been a fun last couple months. And I see dollar signs because I see other things that I want, the GameCube, like you said, the PS1, eventually the Saturn. You know, PS2, down the pike. I mean, at some point I'm gonna want to get all of those. I'm gonna keep my original stuff like you and in the box,
Hmm.
but to be able to play and hook it up to a modern TV and have the full library. Now, when you start getting the PS2, you're talking about like 5,000 plus games. I'm sure you're gonna need some sort of
They have hard
hard
drive
drive,
add-ons. They have hard
like a
drive add-ons.
terabyte. Yeah,
Yeah, you got no problem.
yeah,
The big ones are going to be when you start get into PlayStation 3, Xbox
yeah.
360,
Oh
because
yeah.
those games, when they went into the HD realm, the game size went huge. Like games that were normally like 2 GB might have ballooned now to 12 per game. So that's the one thing. Once we start to get to that console generation, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge because
Yep.
that's straight up tell you it's 8 TB for a complete set of 360 ROMs and another 8 TB for a complete set of PS3 ROMs. That
Oh,
tells you
really?
eight
I didn't know
terabytes
that.
each.
Whoa.
Yep.
Ooh.
So there you go. It's coming
Ooh.
at some point. At some
16
point.
terabytes for the
The
set.
sets of both. Yep.
Ooh.
But
Wow.
anyways, Wolfman, thanks for coming and hanging out. Hopefully those of
Oh
you who are
yeah,
here,
this was a pleasure.
you got some knowledge probably dropped on you. I hope that you maybe some of you out there are gain some interest and maybe just looking into it. Get something that you can play. I mean, if you've always thought of one of those, I'd really love to play some of these OG Xbox exclusive games, but I never really had an opportunity to do it. This is your opportunity. And you can get it and not worry about, oh man, I got to really worry about. No, because it's not super expensive. I mean, it is if you start buying like 5 or 6 consoles, like Wolf has been looking at doing and others. but
I
you
know.
get one every now and again. It's not crazy.
Right.
Maybe cut a
It's
couple of
right.
coffees out of your work week, and then just let that money
Yep.
total up because it does add up fast. But
It does.
I'm not telling you what to do, just a suggestion. But if you've ever had one of those, like what, I've always wanted to play these Luigi's Mansion and all these other games again for GameCube. Just get a modded GameCube. You have them all right there at your fingertips. Oh, and by the way, you probably have kids now. Guess what? Your kids are gonna freaking love it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's a
anyways,
home run, man. It's a home run.
it
And
is.
also don't get a $600 controller either. That'll put a
No,
hit
do
on your
get a six
wallet
hundred
too.
dollar. Do hang on. Do get a $600 controller.
Oh my God.
Absolutely get that.
There it
Hang on, let
is.
me show that. You know why that's down there, right? Because we're about to play it. I'm about to play it right soon. Soon.
I know. It's amazing. That's going to be a whole other thing
What are you
coming
talking
down
about?
the
It's
pike
gonna be
soon.
great. It's gonna be
I get it
amazing.
Friday, by the way.
Oh, guess what we're doing this weekend, buddy?
I
Man.
yeah, I got to get those. I'll talk to you off camera, but
But-
a couple of those Ethernet
Oh yeah.
cables and
Yep.
yeah,
We'll get it.
yep.
We'll get it. But anyways, I wanted to say thanks to everybody else that came and hung out, and to Wolfman, my partner in crime, my co-pilot, my brother from another mother, as he says. And just thanks again for hanging out with me and just sharing this
Oh
chat, and hopefully
my
these
God, it's
guys
been awesome.
learn
Awesome.
something.
Quick episode today. We just wanted to get a few things off the old chest and expose people to this stuff, that there's this whole underbelly of collecting that's I think should catch on. I mean, if you're a
Yep.
hardcore collector, you need to start thinking about some of these things.
Exposing stuff, exactly,
Yep.
and underbellies. That's what he said. So, anyways, until next time, everyone.
Peace.
Later.